Welcome to Rare Conversation. Thank you all for joining today's conversation, Driving Corporate Responsibility and Environmental Transparency. I'm Shiyang Li, Director of Rare China Center for Behavior and the Environment. For those of you who have already attended Rare Conversations in the past, thank you so much for joining us. If this is first time joining us, this is a virtual series. We speak with the leaders building a more sustainable world. Previously, conversations have included Rare champions Wendy Paulson and Paul Butler, author Heather White, and the former president of Costa Rica, Carlos Alvarado. You can revisit those and all our past Rare conversations at rare.org/rare-conversations. Today, it is absolutely an honor to welcome our distinguished guest, Ma Jun, a pioneer environmentalist and the founder of the Institute of the Public and Environmental Affairs, IPE. For decades, Ma Jun has been at the forefront of the environmental advocacy in China, making groundbreaking contributions to transparency, corporate accountability, and pollution control. Through IPE, he launched China's first pollution map database, empowering the public, business, and the policymakers with critical data on air and water pollutions. His effort has led to the major improvement in corporate environmental responsibility, greener supply chains, and stronger government policies on environmental transparency. Ma Jun's effort has earned him a global recognition with honors such as Goldman Environmental Prize, inclusion on Time's 100 Most Influential People list, and more recently being named as a finalist for the Earthshot Prize. Interestingly, Rare also became a finalist for the Earthshot Prize in 2024. I have known Ma Jun for over a decade. In 2007, when Rare established its program office in China, Ma Jun has been an advisor to Rare's advisory committee, helping to strengthen the deep collaborations between our two organizations. His expertise and guidance have played a key role in shaping environmental initiatives and fostering long-lasting collaborations. Ma Jun, we're truly privileged to have you with us. Welcome to join us today.
Thank you, Shiyang, for your gracious introduction, for your invitation, and also good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone tuning in. Yeah, really an honor to be invited. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's jump in the conversations. So I myself always believe that if you like to influence others to make a change, you need to change yourself first. So my first question to you is, what is the most enduring eco-friendly habit you have personally maintained, and what motivates you to develop this habit?
Thank you, Shiyang. Yeah, I do have some personal habits, and I think one of the most enduring one is to try to save water in all kind of ways, from the smallest action possible, like turning off the tap while brushing my teeth, to minimize the duration of my shower, and try to reuse a small towel, sometimes to challenge myself to use the smallest towel during my hotel stays. And this is based, course, from my early experience with my water research. It was nearly 30 years ago when I got myself, when I delved into some research on the water issues, and I was shocked by the water pollution and shortage and the destruction of the freshwater ecosystems. I still remember, still wouldn't be able to forget the time, when when the pollution victims holding the bottle of polluted water, she took from the river, small river in her village, and kneeling down with a whole group of ladies in front of me, and the course of the rising rate of the diseases in that village caused by the pollution. And I, of course, still can't forget some of the real severe impacts also on the freshwater ecosystem. And I also understand, how big a challenge to maintain our water supply. I authored the book China's Water Crisis, and to try to relieve that crisis. Now, we're now depend on some of the super big project, including the water transfer project, and our city now actually every 10 cups of water we drink, 7 of them coming from 1,200 kilometers away through a canal. And some tens of thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of people have to be relocated for that project, and with all the other eco impact as well. So all this comes as a great cost. So this have an impact on my way of dealing, and on my current work. I hope that our work can let people know about all of this, because awareness building based on transparency could help people understand that, open the tap should not be as easy as most of the people think about. But on the other hand, knowing how difficult it is for people to make those behavior change, I also try to find some innovative ways for people to make greener choices slightly easier. And one of that is to motivate major brands to produce less polluting and water-intensive consumer products through green supply chain projects. Back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, you probably didn't realize a visit to that village can really have such a profound influence on your personal life, on your whole career, inspired from that village. And as we all have seen that you have come a such amazing environmental journey for the over a decade, and you were journalist and author before you founded IPE in 2007. So let's just imagine if we could use a time machine to go back to 2007, when you were still a journalist, that you were about to start IPE, but I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on what to do. So what advice or insights would you share with yourself back in 2007?
Wow, a time machine. I would love to have that. And I probably will try to tell Margarine of at 2006, when we are trying to build our organization. Maybe I want to tell him how difficult actually it would be, and ask him whether he still want to carry on, knowing that he would step on a journey of no return. Yeah, that's just a joke. And seriously, I want to tell him that I want to tell him that at that time, neither transparency nor public participation is the norm. It's not part of the DNA of our culture. But I want to tell him that actually it could become such a norm. It actually 10 years later, after the establishment of IPE, a special chapter have been put into the new environmental protection law, which titled Environmental Transparency and Public Participation. And I also want to tell him that, at the beginning, we thought that many would think that the pollution is so pervasive, it's a scale, it's so big, there's no way to change that. But actually, when a multi-stakeholder efforts have been motivated based on almost like disruptive level of transparency, the speed of improvement or pollution control could also be quite encouraging. And I probably would also want to tell him that we actually on our way could get so much support. It's not ours alone. At the beginning, it just a couple of us set up this organization. Of course, with all kind of advices and tips given by our friends, including some of them who participated in today's discussion. And but I want to say that during our journey, we actually could get so much support and endorsement from the media, from our NGO friends, colleagues, and government. And of course, I want to tell him that which donor that he should approach and try to expand our work. And but most important, I want to tell him that I hope that I can tell him that we should delve deeper into the research of the law of behavior change. I trust that will actually be very helpful to motivate more to join the efforts, because at the end of the day, only extensive public participation can help to address and mitigate and address challenges of such a scale and with such a level of a complexity. So in summary, I hope I could tell him that we should collaborate even more closely with RARE. Thank you. Back to you.
Yeah, I just imagine, I wish I could be the Ma Jin back in 2006 and hearing all your sharing the insights. I feel so inspired and like more determined to chose this path. But also, I think it also illustrates how the systematic change start from one person and just one inspiration, and with all the over a decade, that delegation and the one person can make such a big change, influence the whole industry and the whole civil society. So that's really amazing. But I'm sure this journal is not always smooth. Just as you said, there are a lot of difficulties and the challenges, especially when IPE first make this pollution data publicly available. So I was wondering, how did the general public react? So were there any surprising or unintended response from the public? Do you still remember any of those?
Yeah, the general public did give us attention from the very beginning, because when we first try to create our list of, for example, the list of violators, because I do want to address the issues from the root causes, from the courses, and the media picked them up. and I still remember so many people paid attention to our findings and put pressure on the polluting companies. Started from the big global top 500 companies and motivate the first 100 companies to come to us. I think that's very, very important, and I give huge credit to the public. But of course, at that time, at the beginning, there are still many not fully convinced, and even some of them are even cynical about our actions. And I can understand that because, as I mentioned, everyone think that I mean, what can we do, to try to deal with this problem? It's the problem of the heaven. It's the problem of the pollution of the air, the water, the coastal sea, the soil. And all of this sounds so big and so difficult to tackle. So it took us more efforts to try to engage more general public into our work. And talking about surprise, yeah, we do have some surprising moments. I mean, one of the surprising responses I heard was an early meeting after we launched IPE. We launched our at that time it's called the pollution map, and it was a meeting between me and a whole group of big companies. I still remember Jörg Wood from BASF, a representative from BASF, told me, to my surprise, that he said that you said you're gonna keep all these records, the bad records of the companies forever, as a way to give them alert. But I want to advise you to create a way to remove them, because you should give credit to the companies who tried so hard and because we're going to spend great amount of money to try to solve the problem. So I took the advice, and yeah, we of course discussed about that and took the advice and created a path towards solution based on my early experience when I worked for environmental consulting firm Sinosphere, and learned about how all these EHS third-party audit protocols, and I eventually integrated that into our system. So give the companies, the violators, a chance to try to make a public feedback, to explain what went wrong, most of them try to explain what went wrong, how they try to solve the problem. And many of them went through the third-party audit under the audit of the local NGO partners to ensure its credibility. So from the first one coming to us 19 years ago, now it's about, now we do have increasing number of them coming in more recent years. So far, more than 31,000 of them have made, communicate and visit us or communicate with us, and to openly address their problems and make improvement. Back to you.
That's great. And I think that reminds me, for behavior change, there are different ways to change people's behavior. So one is the guilt. You make people know what's a mistake, and they feel bad about themselves. But what is more motivating is the emotion of the pride, and they realize their mistake, and then they make effort to change, and they feel so proud. So that is also a great lever that to pace the way of your success. So that's
yeah, absolutely, Shiyang. I think it's you're right, and of course, naming and shaming. Yeah, it's one of the ways to motivate them. But I also want to normalize this issue. I hope people at the beginning, that everyone feel that, oh, it's almost like the end of the world. When I was put on the violators list, my boss got so angry. The regional or even global, manager got angry and canceled the year-end bonus of the entire, management team in China. And but I hope that at the end of the day, I hope people get more, get better understanding that as a big company operating, particularly, through the whole supply chain, it is not quite possible to never have any problems. It's near to impossible. But to have a problem is not the end of the world. It's the real issue, the real litmus test is how do you deal with that? Whether you want to face that and want to be transparent and try to provide the right feedback, take the right action. And I'm so glad that increasingly our corporate partners increasingly understand that.
Yeah, so I'm very impressed with how you adapt your strategy based on the reactions from, the public, from the corporate that you work with. And also I think what is unique about IPE is through your work, you connect public, corporate, and the government together, and they can influence each other. So can you elaborate this dynamic between these three actors and how do they interact or collaborate or even challenge each other? And then just if there are any examples how these three actors can and how you IPE leverage this, facilitate this process.
Thank you. Yeah, as mentioned, we did trust that multi-stakeholder collaboration is the way to address our environmental problem. I think when I look into the root cause of our problem, I find that at the very beginning we actually copied the laws and regulations from the West. Some of the I mentioned about my earlier days when I researched in the consulting firm, and I also got invited to be a Yale Award Fellow, Yale, and doing my comparative research about environmental governance. I also have the chance to be invited by Jennifer Turner, who participated in today's discussion, and to learn about the laws and regulations in America. And I understood that we copied all this, but the enforcement at that time remained to be weak. We seems to got stuck there. When we have weak enforcement, all those who cut corners actually became more competitive in the market, and so that led to a race down to the bottom in their environmental performance. So we wanted the way to how could we change that? During our public hearing, I was invited to by the legislators when the new environmental protection law is being amended, and I was invited, and the legislator questioned me that if you believe that the cost of violation is too low, then why don't you just propose to dramatically increase the penalty fine? I told her that of course, I did, in reality, many times the environmental agency colleagues told me that if he tried to enforce laws and regulations, they actually know some of them are not in compliance every hour because he turned on this screen of his computer saying that don't tell me which one's not complying, just I know them. It's here, but when I try to enforce the laws and regulations, I often got into intervention from the superiors. The mayors may call me because they are big companies, big contributors to the local revenue. So I wouldn't be able to do it. But I do trust that the way to try to address this is to start from transparency and just let people know. Don't let the data stay only within the environmental agency because that they could be marginalized and they could be under so much pressure. So when we push for that and eventually got the information to be disclosed, at the beginning, the first year, we only managed to collect less than 2,000 records of violations. That shows not just the weak enforcement, but the lack of transparency. But today, that number have increased to 3.2 million. And 10 years ago, China became the first in the world to create this online monitoring data's real-time disclosure of online monitoring data, meaning all these companies, every hour, major companies, tens of thousands of them, need to report their air emission every hour to the public, water emission every 2 hours. So those violators, which only before could be viewed on the computer screen of the local agencies, and today, we put them not just on the computers, but also on the Blue Map app. So it's location based, and everyone could see that, particularly the neighborhood, the local residents, they could see that, and they actually help to give a backing to the government to engage with the most powerful local companies, factories, and open their door. And to my surprise, actually, what the companies eventually, when they come to me, they kind of say that, look, what we care the most is to level the playing field. Yes, if everyone need to comply with that standards, although though it's a quite tough standards, we still could manage to do it. We still want to do it because it's a level playing field, and we could still be competitive, and that's what happened particularly during the past 10 years. And I do see a far more healthy interaction. Before there's such a big gap of distrust, but NGOs, not just us, but our partners, many of them, NGOs could serve as a more neutral third party that can help to facilitate this healthy interaction between stakeholders. Back to you.
Yeah. Think what is really interesting when you mentioned about for the policymakers, and the first thing they wanted to bring is put on the fine, and there's assumption that if people pay the fine, they will change their behavior, but we all know that's not true. First of all, you put on the fine, if you cannot collect it, and it doesn't change anything, and people's mindset is really not that rational. Sometimes when people pay the fine, they will think they are legit they don't feel guilty about what they have done because they already paid the price. So that's something we always wanted to. So what IPE did is to give more options, more tools to government and the policymaker to help them to do their job better. So that is really how these three actors can influence each other. That's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, as Shiyang, and if you give them a more discretional power to impose all these fines, but they could face all this intervention, it actually could increase the risk of rent seeking.
Exactly.
So may lead to more corruption.
Exactly.
So I think open the data. A couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to participate in a discussion in Indonesia, and today I also find participants from Indonesia, and I have the chance to have the discussion in Jakarta, and the local NGO colleagues also mentioned about the issue of corruption and thinking that it's quite difficult to overcome, and transparency actually can also help to mitigate to some extent on that issue, because sunlight could serve as a disinfectant. We do see that. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So I think in the first several years, IPE was focused on water and the air pollutions, and there a lot of progress has been made over after a few years. So some people might say that you have accomplished your original mission, but however, you choose to go further by upgrading Blue Map to tackle a broader range of environmental challenges. Can you share some examples of what these new challenges and why you chose them, and how this expansion can drive the impact?
Yeah, first and foremost, I do want to highlight the progress made. Everyone knows about the smog problem. Beijing used to be called the capital of smog, and I still remember the first month, 2013, when we first have the ratings of PM 2.5 every hour. The monthly average in January that year reached 150 micrograms, and the WHO standards at that time was 10, and now dropped to 5. And the annual average was 89.5 micrograms. And through all these years of multi-stakeholder effort and the National Clean Air Action Plan, and last year, that concentration level have dropped to 30.5. So from 89.5 to 30.5. And today, so far, it's 26. And on the air side, when we first got started, 28%, most of the rivers and lakes, their water level, the water quality level, not just they're not drinkable, they're not touchable. But today, at that time, 28% of the monitored sections was in the worse than category 5, meaning good for no use. And that 28% have dropped to below 1% last year. And for the first time last year, 90% of the rivers and lakes reached, of course, we're talking about nationally monitored sections. Local monitoring still reports higher percentage of pollution. There are still problems. So the mission, we have, made real progress, particularly during the past 10 years. But our mission is far from being accomplished. 30 microgram, it's still 6 times higher than the WHO standards. And on the water side, all those toxics and new kind of pollutants, we have not quite actually been creating mechanism to fully manage them. And of course, today we're facing far new challenges, the climate change and the loss of biodiversities and all these new pollutants. And the climate change is really happening at a speed and scale that is really, really could have a catastrophic potential. So so we do hope that to tap into the experience during the past 10 years in China, in dealing with our pollution, because we did got some speed and scale, which we need for in our climate mitigation. So we decided that on this new project, on this new issues like climate change, loss, biodiversity issues new to us, we also want to help to contribute to create data infrastructure, started from our climate and energy mapping, and then follow that with the assessment of the performance, create an index to assess the performance of provinces and cities, drilling down into regions and also into sectors and major emitters. So create the corporate climate action index to assess their performance, and then create digital solutions like to try to engage like the digital carbon calculators, which are now being used quite extensively through the supply chain and green finance. And also on the biodiversity side to create the biodiversity map, and now and this year we're going to try to build some index with our partners, and we also create solutions to try to in China another innovation have been made. The provincial national government have made each province to create function zones. So China's divided into 44,000 function zones, which include 3 million square kilometers of red line zones. So where they are, we demarcate them on the map, and now helping the banks before they issue loans to check that. And the last but not least, about the garbage sorting map to try to, I think that's a good entry point to facilitate behavior change. Garbage sorting and plastic recycling, create index to use crowdsourcing, to engage with people. So far, our Blue Map users and our NGO partners like Green Jiangnan have helped us to take pictures and fill out the questionnaire on some 100,000 neighborhoods, and which give us the chance to facilitate a dynamic assessment of the performance, and now creating solutions for the recycling of say recyclables like plastic. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're really impressed to see that how IPE has evolved. The Blue Map has evolved from, data sharing became such a universal system, and that can a lot of different technologies, different component, different player can all work on the same platform. And before this webinar start, and we also ask participants to vote on what is the effective solutions for green consumption. So let's look at the result and see what the public, what the participants think, what is the most effective. Yeah.
Wow.
From the result, rank number 1 is behavior guidance. And number 2 is education awareness build. Number 2 is infrastructure investment. And number 3 is education awareness and economic leverage. I think a lot of those components is also incorporated in IPE's work. Do you relate any of those in your work?
Absolutely. Yeah, I thank everyone for all of you to fill out this form. And yeah, I do as I mentioned, if I have chance to tell myself, 10 years or nearly 20 years earlier myself, I would tell him to delve deeper into this behavior change theory and science, because this is really important, and that is the also the specialty of rare. I uh, I know Shiyang for 20 years, and
Yes.
yeah, we've been trying to communicate and always being quite amazed by all this research and actions taken, based on behavior science uh, and economic leverage. I think all this infrastructure, for the government to provide all this. I think this is extremely important. For example, on the garbage sorting side, if what we found is that actually, it just took some 30 days, roughly 30 days. If you push for that, people can change their behavior. But if the if you don't have a mechanism which can collect all this sorted out garbage and you dump them together, that will totally cause the people uh, to lose their confidence and go back to the old way. So I think it's so important for those infrastructure to be created, and of course, economic incentive is extremely important. And at the end of the day, I think all this have to work together, and we have to actually try to, neither one of them could single-handedly be a silver bullet, and we still have our long learning curve, and look forward to further yeah
Yeah. I
collaboration
already,
with Rare
yeah.
and all of you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I already saw a lot of questions in the chat box to knowing more about how the IPE developed the behavior change principles, but we can address them later in the question and answer session. Um, so one more question. So right now, the society, the technology changing so fast, and the AI became such a hot topic. So I wonder, how do you see AI enhanced environmental transparency and public engagement, and how can IPE leverage AI to improve its work?
Yeah, from the very beginning, when 2006, I think three of us, thinking about creating a database, and the reason that we could think about doing a national mapping is because of the technology. It's because of the internet, and then the website, and then all this big data, and cloud computing, and all this of course, mobile internet and location-based solutions, and all of this help us. And today, AI, it's all about AI now. This is fundamental. This is the most encouraging and most important. Of course, we have very deep concern over the future of human being as a creator. I think AI, I don't know the future of that, but at this time, I do hope that we should try to compete with those who want to put it into wrong way of use. We need to put them into for good use, to try to use them to enhance our efficiency now every day we are trying to deal with more than 6,000 different sources of data, and all these documents coming from in all different formats, and some of them are PDF or even photos, and to retrieve all this data from large volume of document without AI, it's impossible. So over the past couple of years, we've been doing that. But at this very moment, we are busy integrating AI into our Blue Map, because just over the past less than a year, AI-powered models such as ChatGPT and now particularly DeepSeek have finally made it possible to I think as an open source model create amazing opportunities for a use that can really empower participation. It could vastly lower the threshold for the use of our data and services. And of course, now the most important is the issue of RAG and the retrieval augmented generation. I think this is a powerful framework and particularly useful for applications by most of our users who often require much higher accuracy, or sometimes, in many times, real-time information. General AI model would now be able to deal with that. So now we're trying to develop that and integrate that. And of course, also, to try to deal with all this misinformation and disinformation, the hallucinations of responses given by AI could be really troublesome. We need to recognize that. Sometimes it's just totally talking about nonsense or generate all this false information. So at the end of the day, I hope that the independent, neutral agencies, I hope many of them could still maintain that level of credibility, because high quality data, trustworthy data could become scarcer in the days of AI. Thank you.
Exactly. I think the AI both create new opportunity and also challenges. But it's definitely some tool that we need to make good use of that. And yeah, so I think that's I have one more question. So let's travel to the time machine again, and this time we're traveling 10 years into the future. So what do you hope to see IPE achieve by then? And if you could meet Ma Jun in 2035, so what advice you think he might share with you today?
10 years, yes. Yeah, I hope I myself still there 10 years, and but in 10 years of time, yeah, I do hope that if I could meet Ma Jun of 2035, he could tell me that we are finding ways to work more closely with our international partners, and to make more contribution to address the triple planetary crisis. Because at this moment, some progress have been made in our part of the world, but much of the issues have been elevated, challenges have been elevated to the global level, to the planetary level. Our boundaries are being threatened to be breached, and I hope we could make our contribution, but in the meantime learn more from the partners overseas, and to work together to create this global data infrastructure, and create global accountability mechanism based on data-driven analysis, and create innovative digital solutions to enhance the effectiveness. Of course, I also hope the Ma Jun 10 years in 10 years could tell me that they find a better way, more effective way to facilitate public behavior change. And I do hope that I hope that he could tell me that people, the public, the fully informed the public, they don't allow the our planet home to be undermined, to be destroyed. And I hope they could tell me we have better collaboration with Rhea and all the colleagues. Thank you.
Great. I want to meet that margin too. Yeah. So I think I'm sure the participants of this event today also have a lot of questions. So we can now let's move to the question and answer sessions. But before we transition over the questions, I want to just point out a few things to our guest. And if you wanted to know more about amazing work that IPE has done, you can visit ipe.org.cn. And if you wanted to see more of our rare conversations, and you can visit rare.org/rare-conversations. And to learn more about behavior science, and you can visit behavior.rare.org. And also you can follow us on social media at rare_.org. So, okay, let's see what the questions our participants have. Stephanie, can you share some of the questions?
Yeah, let's start with this one. What role does cultural perception play in shaping corporate responsibility in different regions or countries, for example, in China?
Yeah, the cultural perception is very, very important and important factor. And we actually, as I mentioned at the beginning, to openly name some companies as polluters, and sounds like quite a big problem, in China. Our culture is not sometimes not trying to go that direct. And the reason that we chose to do that because at that time it was really, really serious, and we got stuck in the weak enforcement. So we have to choose to do some naming and shaming to motivate change. But in the meantime, I also understand that the cultural shock, based on that. So try to help to create some solutions based on that. One of that is, of course, to make sure that we use the most, widely accepted sources of data. So we started with the government monitoring data at the beginning. So even if some of them were very unhappy or sometimes threatening, but still they kind of accepted that it was a kind of government monitoring result not generated by us, result generated by us. And then, created this path towards solution is extremely important, to help change people's mindset on that, to try to normalize, to make it less sensitive for this data to be disclosed, and then even make them a good model for them to try to a good model. I still remember one major textile supplier, for quite a few years, he complained that he spent so much money and he got, but not his neighbors, and he was actually disadvantaged. But one day he came to Beijing and he insisted on inviting me to a dinner. We had our policy not to do that, but he insisted on. He said that eventually all these major brands give actually picked his meals because they have higher performance, and that actually, help to make those who make public response a model, instead of being criticized, and of course, to us, as an NGO, now to ensure that as a nonprofit, to ensure that we have maintain our credibility, and nonprofit. It's so important. Yeah, thank you.
I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah. So, what are the specific steps summarized by IPE to date for initiating behavior change? Could you kindly share if a guiding principle or framework has been established along with any related experiences?
Yeah, I think maybe Shiyang could better answer that question than me. Rare, I always feel so respectful to the to Rare as an authority on this issue. But to us, it's far more basic. All these years we've been trying to find ways to facilitate behavior change, and of course the nudge theory, the social proof, all these are important. But as I explained, I think the transparency, I think, could be a fundamental for all of these issues. As the polls shows, all these different methods, I think all of them are important to facilitate change. But at the end of the day, if we don't have transparency, if we don't create credibility, then it's extremely important. It could even lead to a lot of greenwashing behavior. So that's why we're not just pushing for the transparency. We're still trying to push to even further disruptive way of transparency. And I do see a great opportunity based on all this new development of IT technology and big data, and also cloud computing and Internet of Things, and of course the AI, 5G. I think all this are extremely important, and create all this potential for us to tap into to motivate behavior change. Thank you.
Yeah, I think from like I always wear a behavior lens for when I listen to those environmental practice. So I hear that for IPE they use information, the power of the information, and they leverage the power of social influence, like people interact with each other, and also they make this information and the interaction more easier for people to access and for people to talk about that. So that is all the success factor for IPE's huge impact. So I think it's really, I think we can talk forever, continue this dialogue, but I think for the time, and we really appreciate that all your sharing, your wisdom, and your amazing story, and even I've enjoyed very much traveling on the time machine with you. So we hope we can continue this conversation. And also I hope to the participants of today, please follow us on social media and sign up for Rare's newsletter, and don't miss of our future Rare conversations, and visit IPE website to know more about their great work. So thank you so much, Ma Jun, and I'll see you next time.